Over 70% of Gen X fears running out of money in retirement more than they fear death itself. And that's a staggering statistic. When I first entered the industry, that number was much lower. But as people are living longer, the risk of not preparing adequately for retirement has become more and more real. Today, I want to talk about practical steps Gen X can take right now to help reduce the chances of outliving their money. My name is Daniel Miller, and I'm a financial advisor who helps you steward your wealth with purpose and generosity. Gen X has more competing demands on their dollars than any generation before them. Some that I see often are supporting aging parents, raising kids, saving for college, managing debt, and trying to prepare for retirement while doing all that at once. It can feel overwhelming. But here's the truth. Your kids have time, your parents have options, but you only get one shot at preparing for your own retirement. No one else is going to do this for you. And that's why prioritizing your financial future has to come first. The first and most powerful step Gen X can take is to maximize retirement contributions. Retirement accounts like 401ks and IRAs remain some of the most tax-advantaged ways to save, and they're designed exactly for this purpose, building a future income stream that you won't outlive. For those under 50, the baseline is simple. Make sure you're putting in as much as possible into your retirement plan each year. Even if you can't hit the maximum contribution, consistency matters more than perfection. Regular contributions, no matter the size, create a foundation that grows over time. But here's where it gets interesting for Gen X. Once you turn 50, you unlock what's called catch-up contributions. And these rules were put in place because lawmakers recognized that many Americans start saving seriously later in life. Catch-up contributions let you put away more than younger workers, and that extra cushion can make a dramatic difference in the long run. And there's even more good news. Starting in 2025, there's a special boost for people between ages 60 and 63. These additional step-up contributions mean that if you're in your peak earning years and behind on savings, you have a powerful way to accelerate your retirement nest egg. Let's put this into perspective. Imagine you're 52 and you're able to contribute an extra $7,500 each year in catch-up. Over the next 10 years, without even considering growth, that's $75,000 more in your account. Add in the power of compounding, and depending on your investment returns, that number could be closer to $100,000 or $120,000 or more. And that's not a small amount. That's years of groceries, healthcare expenses, or even the travel you've been dreaming about. Here's the takeaway. The system gives Gen X a second chance to sprint into the final stretch. If you've been behind, this is your opportunity to close the gap. If you're ahead or already on track, this is how you create margin and freedom in retirement. The second step is to automate your savings increases each year. This is one of the simplest and most effective strategies Gen X can use, and yet very few people take advantage of it. Here's how it works. Many employer retirement plans allow you to set up what's called an automatic step-up. And that means your contributions increase by a set amount, maybe 1 or 2%, every year without you having to do anything. Why does this matter? Because most of us adjust to the money we see in our checking account. If it comes in, we'll find a way to spend it. But if it never hits your account in the first place, you're not missing it. It's a classic behavioral finance principle, out of sight, out of mind. By automating the increase, you remove the decision-making friction and allow your savings rate to grow naturally year over year. Let me give you an example. A client I'll call David started saving for retirement later than most. At age 45, he was only putting 5% into his 401k. We turned on an automatic 2% increase each year. 10 years later, without ever feeling like he had to make a big sacrifice, David was contributing 15% of his salary. And here's the kicker. When he looked back, he told me, I honestly didn't even notice the difference in my paycheck after the first few months. What he did notice was how much faster his retirement balance was growing and how his confidence changed. Think about it. If you start at 6% and increase by just 1% a year, in less than a decade, you're saving 15% of your income. That one change could add hundreds of thousands of dollars to your retirement portfolio over time. And the best part is, this strategy works whether you're behind or ahead. Automation is like putting your retirement savings on cruise control. You set it once and it works quietly in the background while you focus on living your life. The third step Gen X should seriously consider is delaying their Social Security benefits for as long as possible, ideally until age 7. Here's why. For every year you delay past your full retirement age, your Social Security benefit grows by about 8%. That means if your full retirement age is 67 and you wait until 70, your monthly check could be around 24% higher. If you compare taking it early at 62 versus waiting until 70, the difference can be as much as 70 to 80% more income each month for the rest of your life. Think about that. A bigger check that comes like clockwork every month, guaranteed for as long as you live. That's income you don't have to pull out of your retirement savings, which means your investments have more time to grow. It's a double benefit, more Social Security income plus more time for your portfolio to compound. Let me share an example that demonstrates this super well. A client I'll call Michelle was planning to retire at 62 because she was tired of her job. She wanted to start Social Security right away. But when we ran the numbers, she realized that waiting until 70 would increase her monthly benefit by nearly $1,000 a month. Over the course of a 25-year retirement, that could add up to hundreds of thousands of dollars in extra guaranteed income. Michelle decided to keep working part-time from 62 to 67 and drew on a small portion of her savings to bridge the gap. By delaying Social Security, she not only gave her investments more years to grow, but she also secured a much larger income stream for life. Today, she tells me she's grateful she waited because she doesn't worry as much about outliving her money. The lesson here is simple. Patience pays. If you're healthy and can afford to wait, delaying Social Security is one of the best financial moves Gen X can make to strengthen their retirement security. The next step is making sure your investments are working as hard as possible, given your goals and your risk tolerance. This is a must for Gen X. Too often, people assume that just because they're contributing to a retirement account, that everything is on track. But what I've seen repeatedly is that accounts are either invested too conservatively, which means they're not keeping up with inflation, or they're spread across funds and accounts in ways that don't really match a person's retirement timeline. The truth is, you cannot afford to find out 5 or 10 years from now that your portfolio wasn't positioned the right way. By then, it may be too late to recover. That's why I always recommend getting a professional review, even if it costs a little upfront. The amount of clarity and potential savings can be worth far more than the fee. Many times I meet with Gen X clients who have multiple old 401ks or IRAs sitting untouched, sometimes for years, invested in options that no longer fit their situation. Without someone actively looking at those accounts, they could miss out on years of growth. Let me give you an example. A client I'll call Brian had 3 different retirement accounts from previous jobs. He assumed they were all invested properly because he picked funds when he first enrolled. But when we reviewed his accounts, we discovered that one had been sitting in a money market fund for almost a decade. That means while the stock market nearly doubled over that time, his account barely grew. Once we reallocated his investments to match his risk tolerance and retirement goals, he immediately felt more confident. It wasn't about chasing the highest return. It was about making sure every dollar he worked hard to save was also working hard for him. For Gen X, this is critical. Your money needs to outpace inflation and grow at a rate that supports your retirement goals. Don't assume your investments are fine just because they exist. Make sure they're aligned, reviewed, and actively working toward your future. The last step I want to highlight is exploring additional income streams. For many Gen X households, the reality is that even after maximizing contributions and reviewing investments, there may still be a gap between where you are today and where you need to be for retirement. The good news is that in 2025, there are more ways than ever to generate extra income. Sometimes this means building a side hustle. It could be as straightforward as consulting in your current field, or doing freelance work, or tutoring online. Other times, it may be turning a hobby or skill into something that generates cash flow. Woodworking, graphic design, baking, or fitness coaching. Even small projects done consistently can add up over time. And not all opportunities require building a business. Renting out a spare room, or driving part-time, selling unused items online, or even seasonal work around the holidays can bring in meaningful dollars. The key isn't how glamorous the income is, it's how intentional you are with it. Here's the power in this. Even an additional $500 to $1,000 a month, if directed entirely into retirement savings, can make a dramatic impact. Over a decade, that could add up to 6 figures or more in additional retirement assets, depending on how it's invested. That amount might be the difference between having to scale back your lifestyle or stepping into retirement with more confidence and freedom. For Gen X, additional income streams aren't just about covering today's expenses. They're about creating breathing room, reducing financial stress, and building the margin you need to retire on your own terms. So let's recap. Gen X is in a unique position. You're juggling responsibilities on all sides, but your own retirement can't wait. That's why the most important steps you can take now are: maximize your retirement contributions, especially with catch-up provisions. Automate your savings increases so your contributions grow without extra effort. Delay Social Security if possible, giving yourself a guaranteed raise for life. Make sure your investments are working as hard as you are, and explore additional income streams that can help you bridge the gap. None of these steps are about quick fixes. They're about building consistency, creating clarity, and giving yourself confidence in your financial future. It's not too late. You have more knowledge, resources, and opportunities today than ever before. What you need now is clarity and direction to make the most of them. If you're unsure what your retirement picture looks like, the next best step is to run the numbers. See where you are, what gaps might exist, and what strategies can help you close those gaps. And if you'd like help creating that clarity, that's exactly what I do every day, helping people steward their wealth with purpose and generosity. My encouragement to you is this: don't wait. The earlier you take action, the more options you give yourself. Your future self will thank you for the decisions you make today.